Jake, you remember you made a all-millennium Big Ten
and I had my reasons.
top 5.
And I had my reasons.
You had Aidan Hutchinson in there, phenomenal player.
Yep.
No doubt.
Yes.
Chase Young.
I understand.
Their careers mirrored each other so crazily. I mean, all the national awards that you could win at their position, they both won.
Yeah.
They were all Americans, both of them. Number 2 overall picks of both of them. How in the hell could you put Aidan Hutchinson in there and not Chase Young?
I mean, you look at the numbers, and yes, they mirrored each other. Chase, because I think there's something to be said about the impact that Hutchinson had on his team. Again, it's one of those things that can't be measured, can't be quantified. Hey, Jordan's got more championships than LeBron, but you and I both agree that LeBron is the greatest player of all time. There's an impact factor of it. And I look at what Aidan Hutchinson did, and just from talking to these guys, first off, they're at their best, they're pretty similar. I mean, both these guys at their best on any given day. That game Aidan had versus Ohio State in 21. I mean, would you take any pass rusher here in the past 5 years over him?
Chase Young.
At his best, it's a tie. Seriously, that was one of the best single game performances by an edge I'd seen. I get that there's a higher quantity, a number, but at their best, they're very comparable. And then I look at the impact he had on Michigan. That team was unranked going into the season. They had a 0.2% chance to win the Big Ten title. He was a defensive end, and you talk to any players, even still to this day, what changed the Michigan program? They say this guy. That means something to me. It means something to me. I'm just saying.
That's all well and good. And I feel like it's really unfair to use that as a talking point in deciding which one of these players was the best player. Because he did all that, that's fine and dandy. Chase didn't have to. He didn't have to arise a program out of the ashes, and it's not his fault that he wasn't tasked with doing that. But this is where we're at. Like you're acting like Aidan Hutchinson won a title while he was at Michigan. He did.
Won a Big Ten title?
Oh, he did. Chase got a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chase got some rings. Let's be perfectly clear about that. But you're acting like he took them to the promised land, a national title. It was 2 years after he left that they finally got there. So I understand he got them on that track, whatever the case is. Absolutely not. Mark Carman had a comment up there too, talking about Heisman voting, and Hutch finished ahead of Chase Young. And I guess my biggest reply to that is Justin Fields was at the same ceremony as Chase Young. So you split the vote from the Midwestern voters. For people who don't know how the Heisman goes, it's typically regional voters, and they're pretty loyal to their region. You see the ballots come out. Typically the guy who they believe is the best in their region, they'll put at number 1. So you got people in the Midwest looking at Chase Young and Justin Fields at the same Heisman ceremony trying to decide between those two. And I bet you if it was just Chase standing there alone by himself that year, he'd probably finish second. And so, like, it's all part of the deal. Like, we can't compare these things apples to apples. And we also can't pull in, well, one guy had an opportunity to do one thing and the other one didn't. The numbers speak for themselves. They really do. This dude was ridiculous. It was 16.5 sacks in his best year. Like, what are we talking about? TFLs, 40.5 to 26.5. Sacks, 30.5 to 18.5. Forced fumbles, knocking the ball out in less games. Oh, my goodness.
So Hutch also had to deal. So you talk about having Justin Fields. Like, that team was phenomenal, right? Which means Ohio State was blowing out teams, right? Which means he has more pass rush opportunities. Michigan, like, that wasn't the case before that final year with Aidan Hutchinson. He also had to go through COVID.
He had more pass rush opportunities in 34 games than Hutch did in 43.
I'm just saying, in principle, when you think about that, if we're going to talk about what's fair or what's not fair.
He played 9 less games in principle.
You're telling me, like, you place no value on your ability to make those around you better?
Brother,
this guy did it as good as anyone that I've ever heard stories about, how good the impact he had on those around him.
You and I were captains, so I place value in that.
Exactly. That's why I'm so shocked to see this.
No. Don't be shocked, because I'm telling you that is not a point of comparison, because they were in two different places
we're talking about
as
greatness.
A program.
We're still talking about greatness.
Right, but Chase could literally not have elevated Ohio State in the way that Aidan Hutchinson did. Ohio State was not coming off of a 2-4 season ever. So there was not the opportunity to do that.
So why is that his fault then? Why is that
why
his
is
fault?
that his fault? When
I'm not faulting him.
No, you are
I'm not
faulting him.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, when you bring it in as a point of comparison, you're saying,
I'd love to have Chase Young on my team.
Chase didn't do what Aidan did. That's basically what you're telling me is, I've never seen somebody. Well, you know what? Maybe if he was in that situation, we would have seen that out of him.
I'm not faulting him.
I
I'm just
think
saying,
you are.
what I observed with him, I observed him. I'd love to have him on my team.
Sure.
Absolutely. I'll close my eyes and take either of them. I'd love to have both of them. But I'm just looking at what I observed. Seriously, like that season, you ask any Michigan fan, it felt magical. And this guy carried that weight. There's ripple effects that have happened for years after because of what he's done. And then look, I get it's college career. Look at what he's doing in the NFL right now, too. Look at and I know he's dealt with injuries. It's extremely unfair. Yeah. I get it.
Right.
But you take that whole thing in there.
I don't know about that. The only thing that I know is I'm taking the dude that had the 30 sacks. That had the 40 TFLs.
They're both phenomenal.
And you get the dude with the 18.
Is there any doubt if it's third down? Put him either on the field. I feel good about either of them.
Bro, I'm there with you. I'd love to. You said it. I'd love to have both of these guys on my team, but I do know I'm sticking with my red corner guy.
All right, I'm gonna stick
in
with
this
my blue
debate.
corner guy too. That's fair enough.